Oliver Twist, Chapter 13. A Safe Place. Oliver woke up in a very different room. He had never seen a place like it before. He was lying in a big, comfortable bed. There were heavy, warm blankets and many pillows. Fresh flowers sat on a side table. Clean curtains covered the windows, blocking out the morning sun. Oliver wondered if he was dreaming. The door opened and an old woman walked in. She was carrying a breakfast tray. "Oh, thank heavens," she said when she saw Oliver. "At long last you are awake." She put the tray down on the bedside table. "My name is Mrs. Bedwin. I'm Mr. Brownlow's housekeeper. I was watching over you while you were asleep with a fever." "Good morning," Oliver said. He was surprised that he could speak. He realized at that moment that he was not frightened. For the first time in a very long time, he was not afraid. "My name is Oliver Twist." "Oh yes, Oliver," Mrs. Bedwin smiled. "We know your name. Unfortunately, that is the only thing we know about you." Mrs. Bedwin opened the curtains to let the morning sun in. "I've brought you some broth. I want you to eat it all up so you'll get your strength back. Then we can bring you a proper meal." She helped Oliver sit up in bed. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Bedwin," Oliver said, "but could you please tell me where I am? Is this heaven?" "On my word," Mrs. Bedwin gently scolded. "You should not say such things." She sat on the side of Oliver's bed. "I guess you don't remember anything past the courthouse, do you?" Oliver shook his head. "Mr. Brownlow, the man who lost his wallet, brought you home when you fainted," she said. "He's a very kind gentleman. He wanted you to have the best care." "It's very kind of him indeed," said Oliver. He thought he might cry again. "Mr. Brownlow is very generous. Perhaps he'll come see you this afternoon if you feel better." Mrs. Bedwin got up to leave. "Now, can you handle this soup on your own, or should I help?" "I'll be fine," Oliver smiled. "Thank you, Mrs. Bedwin, and I would like to meet Mr. Brownlow. I owe him many thanks." Mrs. Bedwin leaned over and kissed Oliver's forehead. Oliver felt overwhelmed by this gesture of kindness. He could not hold back the tears. This time, however, they were tears of joy. Meanwhile, in a more remote part of the city, Fagin was meeting with Dodger, Nancy, and Bill Sikes. They sat at the long table in Fagin's room. Their mood was very serious. "Why should any of this worry me?" asked Bill. "If the boy turns you in, it's no concern of mine." He looked at Fagin. "You should make it a concern," Fagin warned. "If the police take me, then it only seems likely that you'll be next." Bill reached across the table for Fagin's neck. The old man moved away just in time. "Now, Bill," Fagin said, "you really must watch your temper." "All right, old man." Bill sat. He sat back in his chair and crossed his arms. "What do you have in mind?" "Why can't you leave the boy alone?" Nancy insisted. "Why do you want to drag him down to our level?" She was determined to save Oliver from a life of crime. Nancy knew this was not going to be easy. She had never spoken out against him before. There had never been a reason before Oliver. "Keep quiet, girl," Bill yelled. "You'll do what we tell you to do." Bullseye sat beside his master and growled. Whenever Bill growled, so did the dog. "Bill's right," Fagin said more gently. "We all have to stick together right now." Fagin tried to look as innocent as possible. "I think that someone more trustworthy should watch for him in the streets. At the first opportunity, he or she could grab him." Fagin looked toward Nancy as he spoke. "No," she shook her head. No, and no, and 1,000 times no. I won't do it. She'll do it, Fagin, Bill said. No, she won't, Fagin, Nancy replied. Oh, yes, she will, Fagin. Bill took hold of her arm and squeezed it. And there'll be no more arguing. Nancy winced, but tried not to show how much her arm hurt. She held her head high. You know I'd never hurt you, Bill. Please don't ask me to do this. Bill looked at the old man. She'll do it, Fagin, he said again.